It's been 3 years, and I still don't like how Star Trek, Picard retconned TNG's bar. When Star Trek, The Next Generation ended in 1994, its legacy was crystal clear. The show had given us 7 years of boldly going into the final frontier, and with that came a wealth of iconic locations, from the gleaming corridors of the Galaxy-class Enterprise D to the 10 Forward Lounge, a social hub as instantly recognizable as the bridge itself. 10 Forward wasn't just a set. It was a mood. A vibe. A place where the crew of the Enterprise could take off the Starfleet formality and talk like people instead of officers. And then Star Trek, Picard came along and rewrote its history. It's been 3 years since Season 2 of Picard aired, and I still can't shake my dissatisfaction with the way the series retconned 10 Forward's origins. It's one of those changes that seems small on paper, a bit of backstory expansion for Guinan and her famous bar, but it snowballed into a broader frustration. Because by reimagining 10 Forward as something that existed on 21st century Earth decades before Jean-Luc Picard even took command of the Enterprise, the show shifted its meaning entirely. And for me, it wasn't an improvement. 10 Forward's original magic. When we first stepped into 10 Forward during TNG Season 2, it felt new and organic. The idea was simple. The Enterprise was a floating city, and cities have social hubs. 10 Forward was that place, a lounge and bar located on Deck 10 Forward section, hence the name, where crew could unwind after shifts, have informal meetings, or even seek advice from Guinan. Guinan herself was an enigma. We didn't know much about her history, but she was older than she looked, wise beyond measure, and possessed an uncanny ability to cut through a Starfleet officer's stoicism to get to the heart of their problems. She was the bartender, yes, but she was also the ship's emotional compass. 10 Forward wasn't just a bar, it was her domain, a place where people opened up in ways they never could in the observation lounge or ready room. Its charm came from that combination of location and character. 10 Forward was the Enterprise's beating heart, and it belonged to that ship, that crew, and that point in Star Trek history. Enter Picard's retcon. In Picard Season 2, we learn that Guinan owned and operated a bar in 21st century Los Angeles called 10 Forward. Not just any bar, but a place located on Forward Avenue, hence the name. The implication is that the famous 10 Forward Lounge aboard the Enterprise was named after this Earth bar, or at least that Picard associated the name with Guinan from his earlier days. On the surface, it sounds like a cute nod. A little Easter egg for longtime fans. But the execution didn't land for me, and here's why. It takes something that felt unique to the Enterprise D and makes it into a recycled name with retroactive sentimental baggage. 10 Forward is no longer just the ship's lounge. Now it's tied to 21st century Earth and a bit of nostalgia that Picard is apparently carrying around decades later. Instead of the Enterprise crew organically naming the lounge because it was, literally, on Deck 10 Forward section, we're now supposed to think of it as a deliberate callback to a bar Picard visited in his youth. It changes the tone from "this is our crew's social space" to "this is a callback to that other place Picard liked." It's the difference between finding a cozy cafe in a city you've just moved to and going to a Starbucks because it reminds you of your college years. The problem with shrinking the universe. One of the recurring criticisms of modern Star Trek is that it sometimes shrinks the universe instead of expanding it. Instead of new concepts, we get legacy callbacks, Khan's family tree, Spock's previously unmentioned foster sister, the Borg Queen again, and so on. In moderation, nostalgia is fine. But when every corner of the galaxy seems tied to something we already know, it stops feeling like a sprawling, mysterious universe and starts feeling like a very small stage play. The 10 Forward retcon is a textbook example of this. In TNG, the lounge was special because it was unique to that ship and era. No one needed to know that the name had a deep personal connection to Picard's past. In fact, it was better that it didn't. It made the universe feel larger, like 10 Forward could be a name anyone might come up with in the right circumstances. By tying it to a specific street in 21st century Los Angeles, Picard made the galaxy feel smaller, like the names of key locations are all destined to be connected to a handful of familiar people and places. What this does to Guinan. And then there's Guinan herself. Whoopi Goldberg's portrayal of Guinan in TNG was layered with mystery. We knew she was centuries old, had survived the Borg's attack on her people, and shared some kind of rare and profound connection with Picard. Her past was intriguing precisely because we didn't know all of it. Every scrap of backstory we got felt earned. In Picard, however, the reveal that she owned a Los Angeles bar in the 21st century and that it was apparently central enough to Picard's memory to inspire a location aboard the Enterprise robs the character of some of that mystery. Not because it's inherently bad for her to have lived in LA, but because it reframes her relationship with Picard in a way that feels forced. We now have to accept that Picard and Guinan's friendship began long before their first meeting on the Enterprise, even though their on-screen dynamic in TNG worked so well precisely because it felt like they had history that we hadn't seen. Now we've seen it, and it turns out that history includes him dropping by her 21st century bar. It's far less epic than the decades-spanning connection we imagined. The lost potential of 10 Forward as a storytelling space. Another reason the retcon rubs me the wrong way is that it undermines what 10 Forward meant as a narrative tool in TNG. 10 Forward worked because it was neutral ground, not the bridge, not engineering, not the captain's ready room. The conversations there could range from casual gossip to deep philosophical debates, and they were rooted in the present of the show, not the past. By attaching the name to a pre-Enterprise bar, Picard introduced unnecessary sentimentality. Now, when you rewatch TNG and see a scene in 10 Forward, it's hard not to think, oh, that's named after that bar in LA. That's not what I want in my head during, say, Data's awkward attempts at small talk or Worf's deadpan comments about prune juice. Those moments worked because 10 Forward was their space, not a monument to Jean-Luc's pre-Starfleet days. How it could have worked better. Here's the thing, I'm not against the idea of Guinan owning a bar on Earth. It fits her character perfectly. She's a listener, a counselor, someone who thrives in spaces where people gather and open up. Seeing her in a 21st century setting could have been a great character moment, but it didn't need to be the 10 Forward. Imagine if Picard had given her bar a completely different name. It would still be a nod to her history and her role as a bartender, but without overriding the Enterprise's 10 Forward. Fans could have enjoyed the cameo without feeling like the TNG location had been backfilled into a sentimental reference. Alternatively, if the writers really wanted the connection, they could have left it ambiguous. Maybe Picard visits the LA bar, notices the address on Forward Avenue, and years later, the Enterprise's lounge just happens to be on Deck 10 Forward section. He smiles at the coincidence, but it's never explicitly stated that one inspired the other. That way fans could choose to see the connection or not. The emotional disconnect. What frustrates me most is that the retcon seems designed to hit an emotional B